left, right.
Hi there, and welcome to episode 45 of SipTalk. Today, we're talking about yesterday. We're actually talking about 20 years ago yesterday. So it's the year 2020, we're talking about the year 2000, and what has changed. And man, oh man, a hell of a lot has changed. On that note, I'm going to invite you to listen to the rest of the episode and make any comments. Let me know some of the biggest things for you that have changed over the last 20 years. Enjoy. This is Sip Talk. Grab a drink and enjoy.
Cross this film.
Cheers.
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 Welcome to Sip Talk, episode 45. James has a great topic he wants to talk about. I think it's going to be pretty cool. This is 45, right?
Yeah.
We are at 45. What are you drinking down there?
Sticking with the Milwaukee's best ice for right now. Probably going to switch it up to whiskey about halfway through once the beer runs out.
Smart move. I got a Blue Moon, and you've got
An old fashioned.
He's got a sort of fashion. He's fashioned.
You know, one of my favorite drinks when I had bourbon on hand regularly would be basically a quick old fashioned, which would really just be whiskey and orange bitters. So,
What he's got.
and you're kind of
I brought this.
yeah. So
Let me do a quick
orange
introduction.
bitter. So you're doing one of my favorite drinks.
Let me
It's
do
like
a quick.
the
Let me do
lazy
a quick
man's old
intro
fashioned.
here. We got James at Boswell, philosopher, accountant, referee, and bartender. We got Andreas Battaglia here, also part-time bartender, part-time philosopher. So let's get into it. Here's this topic. We've got what has changed since the year 2000, and that's coming at you 20 years later, in the future, in the present. We're all 20 years older. So I'm going to let you lead on this one because your idea. I got my own notes I've taken this afternoon, but I'm curious what foot you want to start off on.
Well, the thought entered my mind today about just how. So, like, my company is currently in the process of changing over a whole bunch of different softwares. We're opening a new office, and there's a lot of new software programs that we've had to learn in the last couple of months. And I was just thinking, like, with all this change and everything, how different it must be to be growing up today, both in the the weirdness that is 2020, plus even before 2020, just. I'm 20 years out from having like really adolescence, and I don't know how it is for kids to grow up these days. I've got a couple ideas, but I was just thinking, what's changed in the last 20 years? What are some of the biggest differences? What are some of these things that you might not necessarily think about, but have really had just a big impact on lives that you might not think about?
Well, we've witnessed just an idea is we've witnessed cell phones and communication technology from the very beginning to what it is now, and it was new when it first came out. So cell phones were a totally new object. So if somebody suddenly invented like the I don't know, think of some made up technology like the transporter device where like you can
Star Trek?
But no, like something that like you'd never heard of before. Obviously, communication device, a transporter device, but it didn't exist 3 months prior. But what I'm saying is the kids now are born into the evolutionary period of what's already going on. So
How old were you when you got your first cell phone?
I think I was probably. So I was thinking about it. I pulled out this Motorola V60. I don't know if you can see this. I happen to have it behind my desk. This came out, I think, 2001. So not even 20 years prior. And this was not. I don't think this was my first one, but it was a very stylish phone because it's got this metal case that pops on and off, and then there's a battery inside.
It
But
was
very
pretty
stylish.
small.
And it's small. Yeah, I was always a big fan of a smaller phone because it was less to carry. But yeah, that's 2001. So I must have been like 16 years old. But
I
that made
remember driving out to I think it was your friend Scott who we bought the phone from, and it was like the Walmart out in like Rotterdam or something.
oh, we drove to a pop-up shop in a
Yeah,
in a
and
store.
that would have you would have had to have been either 16 or 17.
Yeah.
And so before that, like, so like just imagine going back to a world where if you needed to reach somebody, you had to hope that they were home.
well,
Think about that.
Actually, hang on. Let me. And I want to get there 1 second. We had a cell phone that was passed between family members prior to that. So whoever was leaving the house for whatever reason on an excursion could take that phone. But you're right, to contact someone before that.
I would say that even that, your family was kind of advanced in that regard. Like, not every family had a cell phone, let alone a cell phone for every person.
I mean, yeah. I mean, remember like when your house had one TV?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and now people have screens in every room and an iPad, but TV was the only visual interface that you had in the home that was electronic. But yeah, if I wanted to get a hold of you, I would have had to call your house and hope that you were there.
Or were you guys, when you started dating these people back when you were 17, 16, you had to call the landline and hope that the girl that you were calling, the person that you were calling,
That's true. Yeah.
would pick up the phone and not,
not their parents.
Yeah, not the parents, exactly. Because otherwise you'll be like, no, sorry, wrong number.
But yeah, I mean, well, that's so let's leap quick off of the communication part. But the dating thing has changed an insane amount too. Now, back then you didn't have as many options.
I think it's definitely connected to the communication changes, though. Like 100%. You can't separate them two out.
No, but now you're able to connect a lot more. So you feel you have a lot more options. People back then, you find basically the most attractive person who is somewhat attracted to you, or over that. You hope they're attracted to you, and you pursue them. Now,
yeah, but how are you meeting these people?
Well, that's like the most attractive person you can find.
But like in your day-to-day, just what you happen to bumble into.
It's proximity and propinquity is what it is.
And you have to be a lot empathetic because you also have to talk to their friends in order for you to get into their circle. You develop more skills about talking to people, not just people that you want to have a relationship with, but other people surrounding that circle of that person. So I think you had like more, and I think personally you had more knowledge of what talking to people is like.
Well, yeah, you had to have social skills.
Yeah, social skills.
Social skills were definitely a hell of a lot better back then because they had to.
It forced you to,
yeah. I mean, you weren't gonna. If your social skills didn't develop, you weren't gonna meet anybody. You weren't gonna meet new friends. There
wasn't the internet,
and
you didn't have any. There was nowhere to hide.
Well, also, I was thinking about this earlier. We had. From 1995 or so and so on, which is only 5 years prior to what we're talking about, we had AOL and we had Instant Messenger. So we had these communication. We had the ability to communicate on the computer. But think about this: there was a whole idea of choosing when or when not you were available when you were online. So you still have some things like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp where you can put available or busy or whatever, but you're still getting the messages. You're still getting them in real time. So, and people can text you and call you and reach you anywhere, almost anywhere in the world.
But yeah, back then when
at its beginning with AOL,
you had to wait for people to be online so you can text to each other, because if the other person wasn't available, you couldn't send them a message.
Yeah. What were you
Yeah,
saying?
that's beginning with AOL. Like there would be times that you would expect people to be online or whatever, but a lot, like at its inception, it was dial-up. So you would be tying up the family's phone line
Yeah, you'd
to
be tying up.
be
You'd be tying
accessing
up
the internet.
the main line of communication between your entire family. And
Now, some families would have a separate phone line specifically for the computer,
do you remember?
but it wasn't until like the early to mid 2000s that the concept of like broadband internet and using cable internet ever even really took hold.
But do you remember online gaming and someone would pick up the phone, or even being in a conversation with somebody? I remember like talking to girls online, and somebody would pick up the phone, and I would feel like my fucking world had ended because
Because you got disconnected.
I'm like, I made that opportunity may never present itself again. And
Never mind the fact that she was in Chicago and you were in Albany, New York, and you didn't have a car.
True, yeah. But yeah, in 2000, yeah, I had a car a year later, basically, but we couldn't go anywhere unless it was on bicycle.
Think about GPS. Like I drive.
Yeah, it's a long
and I
bike
don't
ride to
use the
Chicago.
GPS, and I don't understand how my father used to drive without any GPS. He knew the roads back in Ecuador, of course. But like I don't know how to drive without a GPS. I was driving on Tuesday, a friend of mine, to Brooklyn, and I was like, I give me the address so I can put it on my Google Maps and I can get there. And he was like, no, it's easy. Just go straight and then do a left, and then I'll tell you how to get there. And I was like, no, I'm going to get lost. Because I just can't be like, okay, now do a left or get out on that exit. No, I need the...
Well, I think what's going to happen, and I think it's already happening, is the idea of being lost will disappear. Because as long as you have some type of cell phone or watch that's connected, you're going to be connected and you'll be pinpointed, and you will always have the infrastructure around you to know exactly where you are.
Speaking of technology as well, so now, do you buy a watch for a luxury purpose or to have it on you, or do you just forget about the watch? Because the only reason why you get a watch is so you can watch the time. But now that you have an iPhone or whatever device that you have timing there. So watches are now obsolete unless you want them to, I don't know, for fashion purposes or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of watch manufacturers actually saw their sales drop pretty precipitously as cell phones really took hold, with the exception of like the ultra luxury ones where you buy the watch as a status symbol.
Yeah. Do you still wear a regular watch?
I wear a Garmin watch that I haven't had leave my wrist for about 3 years now, but that's because it tracks my heart rate and other stuff.
So what's the primary purpose of it, though?
I like wearing it so that I have basically my vitals on record for like whenever I upload like my bike rides and runs and everything like that. It also uploads just its passive monitoring of my heart rate and everything. Mm-hmm. So if I ever wanted to just kind of look and see what the patterns are with my heart rate, I can do that. It's also nice, like, kind of see how am I feeling today and then see how that matches up with the actual data. So I like having my heart rate available 24 hours a day.
I agree completely. I recently started wearing mine to bed. They just came out with a sleep feature, and I tracked the last 2 nights worth of sleep. And I want to see, like, if I'm having a crap day, if I can go back and look at my sleep history for the night before and see how much movement there was.
Yeah, the next one I buy is going to have like a pulse ox feature too. So like not only am I going to have heart rate data, but I'm also going to have like blood oxygen saturation data that I can have with just like a press of a button.
That I really think that's going to be very, very cool, actually. Explain how the blood oxygenation level is affected and what it shows. You can probably do that better than I. Yeah, and also how does it work? Yeah.
Well, the way it works, I can explain much better than what the data is valuable for. But the way it works is very much the same way that the wrist-based heart rate works, which is you'll have a light at a certain frequency that can kind of pick, like, that happens to reflect like your veins pretty well. So you'll have a bright light that shines into your wrist, and like you can kind of see it. Like it doesn't illuminate, but like there's like a bright green light here, and then it shines on my wrist. And then apparently whatever frequency that is, it picks up, and either visually or something, there's another little micro camera or sensor that picks up my heart rate. And so pulse ox is that same idea, just with more advanced technology to be able to figure out not only your heart rate, but like the saturation of oxygen in your blood. And I'm guessing that it has to be like more desaturated your blood is, the different color it is on some spectral quantity.
Yeah.
But like the main thing that you've been hearing pulse ox being used for recently actually is for like COVID patients.
Yeah.
So like if you've got decreased lung function, then you're going to have less oxygen in your body, and if that gets below a certain amount, you die. But it's also really heavily used in athletics to be able to figure out whether or not whether you're above or below your lactate threshold. And your lactate threshold is basically going to be, well, if you're below your lactate threshold, that's pretty much an endurance pace that you should be able to carry on pretty much indefinitely, as long as you have the calories in your body, like your liver's glycogen supply, to perform. Whereas if you're above your FTP, that's going to be something where your muscles are switching from aerobic to anaerobic metabolism. And aerobic metabolism is endurance. That means that you're basically burning oxygen and glucose to make energy. If you switch to an anaerobic, you're no longer using oxygen.
Yeah,
and one of the byproducts of anaerobic respiration is lactate, lactic acid. And I guess if you're exercising, and I haven't had a chance to exercise with pulse ox data, but my guess is that if you get above your FTP, then you're going to build up lactic acid in your muscles, and that directly damages the muscles, which for future development in limited quantities is good, because it breaks down the muscle a little bit and causes it to, over 2 or 3 more days when you recover, like it'll come back stronger. That's the soreness that you feel after a workout. But in the middle of exercise, if you're above your FTP, anaerobic effort can only be sustained for a short period of time, depending on the athlete, between I'd say 5 and maybe 20 minutes.
But that's also the soreness you feel not just after, but while you're working out, especially with resistance training and weight training.
Well, when you feel the burn,
yeah,
that's very much your anaerobic. That's going to be on the high end of anaerobic, because then when you get above anaerobic, you get into like neuromuscular respiration, and that would be like neuromuscular would be if you're doing 100-yard dash. That's beyond anaerobic.
Yeah. So outside, and also pretty soon we're going to be able to monitor. We're going to be able to monitor all of our health functions, I feel like. But 20 years ago, I feel like people didn't give a shit 20 years ago, to be honest with you. Like, unless something was failing, people didn't give a shit. Like, you didn't give a shit what your heart rate was unless you were like a professional athlete. Or
how are you going to measure it?
But exactly.
How are you going to reasonably measure it besides either like counting on your wrist? Yeah. And then, either that, or you'd have to have like an expensive device that really wasn't found outside of doctors' offices.
Well, I mean, I calculate my heart rate, not all the time, but here and there when I want to figure out my heart rate is, I look at a clock, even though we barely have any analog clocks around these days. But my watch is actually an analog, even though it's a digital fucking watch.
Yeah, but does your watch tell you your heart rate?
It does, yeah. I'm at 57. That's not bad. Just see it here.
I'm at 68.
All right. So I want to touch on that. Now we pay attention to all this shit. And I read an article recently about how the Ring doorbells is kind of sowing fear into the suburbs. Let me ask you a question.
How?
When your parents go to work, when they went to work, did they think at any point during the day, how safe is my house doing? Is someone breaking?
We didn't even lock the house.
Exactly. We didn't either growing up. One time we went away for 10 days and we left the garage doors open. One of them. But you didn't think about it. Now with Ring or with these Nest cams and things like that, you're getting constant notifications of movement. You're constantly checking in, going, "Hey, what's going on over here?" But
it's probably just the mailman dropping off something.
which is but it increases your paranoia.
The
And
same way social media does. The same
sure,
way
but
the
now
social media-
I'm saying that you're afraid, and you have this increase in fear, which I feel like we're growing into this fear culture, this fear society, where people are afraid of everything. They have no tolerance. Everybody gets shook.
And I bet you guys at some point when you were about to post something in any social media platform, you double think about, well, should I post this? And if I post this, will this affect me in the next 5-6 years? Because the culture keeps changing every single year and it keeps going faster and faster. What it used to be okay 10 years ago, it's now not okay. It's bad, and you can be
20 years ago, 20 years ago, the concept of social media didn't exist.
Yeah.
Not even like an inkling of it. And I think that's probably one of the biggest changes. A lot of this is about communication and availability of data. But yeah, 20 years ago, if you wanted to know what somebody was doing, you would have to talk to them.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
or you would have to ask somebody who knew them and say, "Hey, what was Justin up to last weekend?" But like, you'd have to make an active inquiry to somebody else, and they would have to tell you. They would have to have specific knowledge of the situation.
Exactly, and that's another knowledge. For example, if you back then when you needed to know something about, I don't know, organ failure or anything related to health, you will go to a doctor, and the doctor will tell you, "Listen, I went to school for a certain amount of time. I know what I'm talking about." Now you can just.
Or you'd have to go to the library and actually look at books.
Yeah, but a lot of people used to do that, and therefore knowledge was something beautiful, something nice. Now you have CDMD or any kind of person that can answer your questions online, and you're like, okay, if you go to CDMD, you're like, hey, I have these symptoms. What's going on? 90% of the times they tell you it's cancer. So you keep freaking out about these things because there's so much information out there.
Well, that's why an actual doctor helps with that. But I think social media has really downgraded relationships. Which, typically, and this goes for you and I especially, James, now that we're doing this regular podcast, we see each other a lot more often. But typically when we see each other, it's, for the last decade or so, and we see each other, we have so much catching up to do, and it's really almost like a special treat. And our friendship is still there and it's still very strong, but you're not on social media. We don't, now, like I said, now obviously we talk a few times a week, but I feel like it's a stronger bond of a relationship. And now people have more friends, but actually fewer tight, strong relationships. And back then, I think people had less friends, but a greater number of tight relationships.
Yeah.
Because we're empathetic. We actually need to go through certain processes, certain experiences together to actually develop that charisma for people. You only feel charisma or empathy through your family, but after that, you will not be able to put your hands on fire for someone that you barely know. So back then, before technology existed, we, used to go out, play with random people, and then that random person became a friend, and then eventually that friend became a best friend, and then out of the sudden you consider that person a brother from another mother, or someone that is very close to you. Unlike now, where we just, I don't know, if you play video games with somebody in Japan, and I don't know, you tag team on this video game, and you feel like, oh, I have a connection with him, but you don't know each other. You don't have that strong connection as we used to do before this whole technology thing happened.
Well, I think that it's really affected relationships. I think that because you're now exposed to so many more people, that the bonds that you have are much weaker, and I think that bleeds into dating. I don't have a whole lot of experience with online dating, but I have some, and I know it's much more fickle than in person, right? Where you meet somebody, you get their phone number, you have to talk to them face to face, which takes some balls.
And you have to ask for their phone number.
And you got to ask for their phone number, which, I don't know how people date right now, but it's a hell of a lot easier to send somebody a text or a DM or comment or whatever it is than it is to walk up to somebody in a bar who's glancing at you, or who you made eye contact, or who hasn't even looked your way, and you're like, fuck, I gotta
Yeah, a straight up cold approach can be terrifying.
I gotta figure out a way to like talk. This is a beautiful person. I wanna engage this person. They haven't even noticed me. How do I make it so it's not fucking creepy and weird?
Mhm.
And that's why I think that our generation may be the last generation of really super empathetic, super social people. I have another theory, though, is that this coronavirus, the lockdown, the quarantine, has been a catalyst into people living in VR, where people never leave their house. They have stuff delivered. They just consume food, and they sit in front of a TV. It doesn't matter if you're in shape. You can have cyber sex with your virtual.
If you work from home, then why would you ever have to leave? Like, you can earn your money from home. You can have your groceries delivered. You have your entertainment delivered. Like,
there's a phrase called "phone it in." Yeah, he phoned that one in.
Yeah, I love that phrase.
Yeah, well, now every fucking thing is phoned in, man. We're phoning it in right now. It's This is our half-assed podcast. I don't have you here. You don't have me down there. We're phoning it in, and this is
I can't come up there. New York will not allow me to come to you. If I were to land in the airport, they'd be like, you got to go quarantine for 2 weeks. All right, cool, thanks.
Not necessarily.
All right, I want to ask this question going back to the relationships things, and I don't have an answer in mind for myself, so I want to see what you guys have to say, and I'm going to probably just bounce off of it. But how do you think that the prevalence of social media has changed expectations in relationships?
Well, okay.
Because I think there's a change. I think that, like, people expect something different from relationships today than they may have 20 years ago.
Well, do you remember?
I'm going to argue. I'll say for sure that they do, but I don't know exactly what it is.
Do you know? Maybe you don't know this, but back in the day, you used to go to a dating service, and they would send you VCR cassette tapes.
Yeah, you'd have to record a videotape of yourself.
And you would have to.
Hi, I'm James.
You'd have to go in front of the camera. Sorry, and you'd have to say, "My name's Justin. I really don't know what to say right now because this is new for me, but I guess I'm here to describe myself. And what I'd like to say is, like, I'm a really fun guy, and fuck me in the face. Like, this is,
Yeah, I like long walks on the beach and picking flowers for
But that's
dates.
where that long walks on the beach comes from. Is probably because it was a relatively common thing that people used to say. And
or I'm gonna do one better for you. The personals that were in the classifieds of the newspaper, SWF looking for like whatever else, like yeah, no, like 40-year-old SWF looking for like BWM or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't remember the acronyms.
But these
like
people, they were in with the times. They were like, when a new dating app, when fucking Match.com or what
Next
are some
or
other
not.
ones?
Next or not.
Next or not?
Yeah.
Next or not?
Yeah, that was.
I haven't heard of that one.
No, but either way, when these new services come along and your first adopters, when they jump on, those people are really in tune with the times. These people that are filling out the Craigslist and the classified dating things, these are people that are really leading the curve there. And that's it's a vulnerable place to be, maybe almost a desperate place. But
You're not answering my question, though.
What was it?
No, then again, the expectations are basically, now everything that you post on social media is not bad. It's not your real life. Everything that you post on social media is like your highlight of that day. Whether you went on vacation, whether you met this new person that he is the love of your life, and you're posting only the good things, not the fights, not the actual struggle. So you put that online, and you let these 12, 13, 14-year-old kids watch, and they imagine, or they think that, our relationship should be only good things, like only love and only great things. But they don't see the bad part about our relationship or the hidden things on it.
I want to touch on that in a second. But James, could you just repeat the question real quick?
Yeah. In its base form, it would be, how has social media changed expectations in relationships?
So what Andreas was touching on, my mom said something to me a long time ago, and it has a lot of power actually. But as you know, and I think Andreas knows, nobody's watching this knows, my father died when I was 9. And I got, minus the 3 years when he was sick before he passed away, I witnessed a great relationship between him and my mom. And my mom has said to me since, maybe when I was like 15, 16, 20, 25, 30, whatever, that she wished that her and my father had argued a little bit in front of, basically she was aware that we as kids only witnessed this perfection of a relationship and that that's not reality. So that landed a lot with me, that perception isn't reality. So when you look at somebody's dating profile, or when you look at somebody's Instagram or TikTok, if we're born yesterday, maybe you may not, you may not realize there's more than what's on the surface there. But I think now most people have the critical thinking ability to look beyond the photos and the posts. But that's tough to do because some people's posts are very refined, and you would believe that real life for them isn't that far from what you're seeing online. But I do think if you're constantly seeing perfection, but you have to be forced to live in reality, you may disconnect a little bit with reality. And
it's so easy to lie on social media. You can be the CEO of this company, you can be this and that or whatever. You can lie so much and so easy, and there's no way that you can actually fact check those things up until you get what you want. If your point on dating is just to have sex with someone, you can lie your way into it. I've seen people doing it, and it's
Well, I've got like 3 or 4 disconnected thoughts that I'm going to try and tie together here.
all right, stream out.
I'm going to start here, which is, so before social media was prevalent, if you were having a bad day or a good day or just an average day, you didn't really have too much of a basis for comparison because you were only around a few other people. And so even if you had just like an average day or whatever, like chances are the people around you were having an average day. But if you're having a bad day, you'd be like, well, you know what? Like, yeah, it's a bad day, but like everybody else is like kind of getting along. And if you're having a great day, you would be comparing yourself to just like the people that were around you that were all having just kind of an average day. So with social media and being able to look at everybody that you're connected with or whatever, some people have networks of 500, 1,000 plus people. And so I would say that my average day, pretty good. Like it's not perfect. Like, yeah, I'm at work but my average day is decent. But if I were to, I'm not on social media, so I don't know how any of these news feeds or anything else work. But if I'm looking at my average day and I'm comparing it to everybody else's day, there's going to be probably out of those 1,000 people, 5 or 10 people whose day blew mine out of the water.
Yeah,
and
that's a small percentage.
And that's what the news feed is going to display, is those 5 or 10 people that just had an absurdly good day. And if I have a good day, then there's probably still going to be 2 or 3 people out there whose day beat mine. So now I'm competing against
2 or 3 people, but this algorithm doesn't show you 2 or 3 people. It shows you hundreds of people that you don't even know.
So exactly. So now every one of my days, no matter how good it is competing against 1,000 or more people's other best days, and I'm always going to lose. It's going to take a 1 in 1,000 good day for me to have the best day out there. So it's going to
also look for validation.
Let me connect this. Let me connect this to relationships. So with that, of the way that social media breeds comparison, and the numbers game is always stacked against you, because as my father always said, there's only one person in the world who can say that they're the best at something. Everybody. So chances are at any point there is somebody out there who is better than you.
Yeah.
So, and social media pushes that in your face. And I think when it comes to relationships, because you have this illusion of choice, an illusion of selection.
It is very
that-
much an illusion. You're right.
Right. That you're comparing your relationship not against other people's average relationships. You're only comparing your relationship against the best that's out there that is probably illusory because the people are only representing the good parts. But now you've got people that when they look at social media or whatever are going to start developing these unrealistic expectations as to what a relationship should be. And the partner that they're with, maybe they're not perfect physically. There's not too many people out there that are. But now you're looking and saying, my partner, she could be a little cuter, or he could be in a little bit better shape. He could lose a little bit of the gut. And now all of a sudden you're thinking, I can do better than who I'm with right now. Whereas 20 years ago, instead of looking for something better, you looked for things that made you happy with what you had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you 110%. You know, it's difficult being stuck here in reality, but also we are lucky enough to have remembered only reality.
Yeah.
Not this virtual reality, not this ultra contrast with, I mean, even the algorithm alone doesn't show you what 1,000 of your friends are doing. And 1,000 of your friends aren't posting anyway. It shows you the most popular posts of the most popular people, over whatever amount.
Right, and if you're having a shitty day, chances are you're not going to post about it. So there's already a selection bias where people are only going to post the good shit that happens. So you're already filtering out a whole bunch of the average and boring stuff. But to your earlier point, I think that the age that you and I are, we are absurdly lucky to have grown up in the exact period of time that we did, where we have enough wherewithal to know what the world was like before this tremendous shift.
Well, and that's where, and I've said this before, I'm very jealous of your situation not being on social media. My job really demands that I'm connected always, and I hope to get beyond that point where I don't always need to be connected. But right now with what I do, because I run the company, people depend on me. So, and if I expect to depend on them for the company to run, it's only fair that they can depend on me. So that's
I think it's possible to do without social media, because
not
the
in
job
this
that I work right now.
No, not on this business, because then again, you need the more exposure you have, the more business you will get.
Well,
on this business specifically.
Yeah, but so let me just say, like in the accounting world, and I have a general theory on this, that all jobs and all positions are people positions. That it's extremely rare to find a position where you don't have to have interpersonal skills. And in my job, very much so. Yeah, like I'm doing numbers and I'm doing taxes, I'm doing audits or whatever. But how do we get the clients? The way we get clients primarily is going to be through word of mouth of current clients that are happy with the work that we do. And for the most part, our clients care much less about whether or not my work is dead on to the penny accurate than they do with my ability to convey concepts to them so that they can understand them and be personable and friendly and give them the information that they need, not waste their time. And even when it comes to working with other businesses that might not be clients, like I've got a meeting with a banker in a week or so to just talk about, I don't even know what, but it's all about building relationships face to face and being able to communicate well. And I think that you can do that without social media. And
I've done it for years without social media, especially when it comes to promotion of the business. This last year and a half or so, I've talked more about the business. I've been more engaged with social media, and that it's helped the business vastly.
Yeah,
And
because
it's-
there's a new generation of people that are leaving college
Sure,
that were born into technology that
Well, but what James is also saying is that you don't need it, and I'm agreeing you don't need it.
I think
But
they
it's
do need it.
it's like I think it's helpful. There's
It helps a lot, especially for the future. You have to adapt to this new era of kids.
I don't know.
Most
Like,
of the
I'm
kids-
not even on LinkedIn. Like, when it comes to professional stuff, I don't even do LinkedIn. And if I were to ever get a job and they'd say, "Do you have a like an interview?" Let's say that my job at where I'm at now ends and I need to look for another one. If they, what's your Facebook profile look like? Do you have a LinkedIn? I'd say no and no.
Yeah, but
And
that's because you belong to the last generation. You don't belong to these 21, 22-year-old
James
kids
is
right now.
James is 55 years old.
I mean, I'm not saying that you're
Yeah,
old,
as I said,
but
like
thought you were
I have a
still
deep fear
important.
that this is going to just evolve into old man yells
Well,
at cloud.
No.
But
You have to understand.
I want to. He understands. Yeah, trust me, he gets it. A couple of things. One, I want to change the subject. I'm going to pivot on the thank you for the Goose Island. I saw some Goose Island today. Picked that up. Great beer. I was feeling IPA for.
We used to sell that at Sushi Blue. I'm
was-
wearing the old uniform.
Yeah, I was feeling a little IPA as it's getting cold out. IPA, definitely a full beer, and I'll give it to Goose Island. They got a great, really great beer. Their whole line is actually good stuff.
You should
But
look for some of their sours, like in the large
Yeah.
bottles, like Goose Island Halia.
I don't think I've had that one.
It's a special issue, but
So I want to talk about a couple other things. I think so airline security in the year 2000, that was pre 9/11. And do you remember what it was like walking into an airport?
like
Sorry.
if you, I remember flying. I remember we went to Cancun in 2001 in like March,
Yeah, pre 9/11.
and we didn't even need a passport to go to Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
That's not.
That's what.
That's not.
And
So, but also,
actually, that might have been after 9/11, but like, so the thing that everyone talks about is like, if you wanted to meet somebody at the airport, you could, or take someone to the airport, you could walk to the gate and you could kind of like just sit at the gate and like give them a hug up until
as I got off the
30
plane,
seconds before
50
they boarded the plane. Yeah.
50,
Or if they were
75
getting off the plane, yeah, you could be at the boarding gate. And the airport security was like, you just walk through a metal detector. Like you drop your bags, they'd go through and they'd look at them, and like you'd walk through a metal detector, and that was it. And like as long as it didn't beep, you were good.
Yeah, as long as it didn't beep, which is wild.
Yeah, and there'd be like a meter that you could see on top of it where it would light up a little bit if like you had a belt buckle or something on.
Yeah.
But like as long as it didn't beep, you were fine.
And then even if it did beep, they would just buzz. Oh, belt buckle. Oh, watch. Bop, bop, bop. And that, now you get people bringing bombs in their fucking shoes and shit. Which
Yeah.
So yeah, air travel has changed quite a bit, which is sad. But it also, I don't mind going through all the bullshit. I
A
now
lot of
I
it's
feel,
theater though.
yeah, no shit. Yeah. But what drives
Keep
me
up this topic. Let me refill my drink.
all right. Well, I'll talk to Andres in the meantime. What drives me nuts is when you're pulling up to pick somebody up and they don't let you stop out front. So you just got to keep driving around and around. You got to wait for somebody to come off the plane or out of security, pick up their bags, and then meet you. And you can't, and it's fucking 200 yards long, and you can't say meet me at label D.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I was at D, but now I'm at B. If you're not going to be here in 30 seconds, I got to move. I don't know where I'm going to end up next time, which is very frustrating when you're trying to pick somebody up, and it's very frustrating for somebody who you are picking up.
I personally don't mind about the fact that they, want to do a whole screening on you. They want to do these new cameras that will see everything on you, naked basically.
Well, I don't mind.
Like I don't mind about all those things. So like for me, it's if that means that I'm gonna travel safety here, and yeah, go for it. I also understand the fact that as a person that is going to meet someone, you can't stay in one position only because you know, like you look suspicious, and you know, you have to.
Your
you have
car
to
could
get
fucking explode. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, they're not doing car checks when people come into the fucking airport.
Yeah.
So, but no, yeah, when we went, it was springtime, James. So it was definitely pre 9/11, no matter what.
I feel like it was, I don't know, maybe.
No, we always went like April or spring break or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but you know, my birthday is next week, and I'm being taken to somewhere that I don't know. So I got a trip planned for my birthday for me. I don't know where I'm going yet. So I don't.
You're gonna find out once you get to the airport.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So that's exciting.
You know, at some point you're gonna get the boarding pass. You're like, oh, I guess we're going here.
Well, I may not even get the boarding pass. Now everything's digital, so you can. It's all on the phone.
I refuse to do that. I need a paper boarding pass.
I completely agree with you. And also, like, you got to keep the phone. I mean, you're not a big phone guy, so but you got to keep the phone like lit up and shit, and you're waiting in line. It fucking sucks.
I really have two identities, which is either 60-year-old man or 12-year-old boy.
Weird, but fair enough.
It's like I'll take joy in like these incredibly childish things, and at the other time I'm just super old.
So
not at my age.
So I want to just ask some viewers some questions. Rosh just made a funny comment about the cheese that he smuggled through JFK, which is wild. JFK has to let a lot of shit go because I have smuggled shit from Dominican Republic up here, and that's like avocados, cheese, all sorts of like desserts and shit.
Yeah, in Florida, literally there was an infestation because someone from China brought oranges from China, and the seeds actually contaminated the rest of the oranges in Florida. So they had to, you know, get rid of all those oranges in Florida. And for, I don't know, a period of 2 to 3 years, there was a scarce of
the Chinese effect on the Florida oranges. But fuck, I totally forgot my train of thought there. But yeah, Rosh is talking about
the cheese.
About the cheese.
Small from Dominican Republic.
Yeah, but
no,
but definitely airline security, fuel. Speaking of travel, fuel. I looked it up, and the fuel cost in 2000 was about $1.50.
Okay, just that for inflation.
What do you mean adjusted for inflation?
Well, what was it? Inflation calculator. I'm just going to do it for you.
It depends on the year that you're.
But no, in the year 2000, what did you pay per gallon? I remember
you might be paying the exact same price or probably cheaper, adjusted for inflation on 2020. Because in 2020,
why are we
adjusted? Because $1.50 in 2000 is worth more than $1.50 in 2020.
Yeah.
Worth. Okay, yeah. It's worth more.
Adjusted for inflation.
Right. So $1.50 in 2000 would be worth $2.26.
Yeah, but what? And then what is fuel now? Because I got about $2.10. What is it down there?
That's a good question. I'm probably in like the low twos.
I mean, by my apartment, it's $4.99 a gallon, which is fucking nuts.
Somewhere uptown is $2.75 to $3.50.
Yeah. Yeah, in Manhattan, there's not a lot of gas stations.
No.
Which is wild. You just see them being fucking paved over left and right.
I'm looking it up right now because I haven't filled up my tank in like a week.
Jail, where is it?
About $2.
$2.57. $2 where you are?
I'm looking right now. It's probably like right around $2 a gallon.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, we're a little over $2. What is this? $1.19 in Texas.
Less than $2 a gallon. I could fill up right now if I wanted to for like $1.81.
Wow.
So that's actually gas is actually cheaper now than it was in 2000 when you adjust for inflation.
I got one for you. Physically printed photos. We had loads of them in 2000.
When was the last time you held a physically printed photo?
Well, held it? I don't know. Maybe within the last month or two. But
really?
Yeah.
When was the last time that like you got photos printed off for you at like the pharmacy or something?
Taken from an iPhone, ordered online, physically printed photos to have framed this week, actually.
Okay, well then you're weird.
But yeah, so in the year 2000, physical photos film was basically disappearing. We had
Not in 2000.
Yeah, we had in 2000 we had a lot more digital cameras, but
They were just coming out.
the digital cameras, people were still taking that information to the photo centers like CVS or Rite Aid and having them printed. So we were transitioning from film to digital, but we were still printing the photos.
Yeah, but even then, even in the early 2000s, like the digital cameras were in a very early state where the quality was pretty terrible unless you spent like well over $1,000 for a camera.
Yeah, and the camera prices were wild. You were getting those kind
Like-
of pocket cameras were, I don't know.
Yeah, the cell phone, the whatever camera you have in your cell phone today blows any digital camera from the year 2002 out of the water, and it's not even.
It blows.
Unless you're talking about like a $10,000 or $20,000 camera in 2000.
Yeah, now it blows most cameras from 4 years ago out of the water. The ones on your cell phone.
Not the digital cameras, like a decent digital camera of like in the $1,000 to $2,000 range 4 years ago is still way better than anything on a cell phone.
Well, I'll actually say I have a what is it called? The Canon 5D.
Yeah, but then again,
Yeah,
you get
that Canon 5D is a good camera.
if
Yeah,
you take pictures on a digital camera, and then you want to upload them to Instagram because that's the platform that you upload pictures on. Instagram itself will reduce the what do you call this in the
pixels or
the
something.
pixels and everything. So everyone, regardless of how good your camera is gonna look the same as if you take it on an iPhone.
Well, no,
or
it's
on
not.
a-
That's
on
not.
Android.
That's not exactly true. But I will tell you that the ones I take on the Canon are way better than anything I can take on the iPhone 11 Pro. There's no way to compare.
Yeah, but if you show it on a regular screen from that camera, it will look a lot better than if you show it from Instagram.
True. Because Instagram's got to deal with all the files.
Yeah, but well, the thing is, the Canon D is going to be taking raw images, so you have to have skill to be able to make them look better. But with skill, like the camera itself, in terms of its sensors and everything else, is better than what you have in an iPhone. But the iPhone has software already built into it that's going to do a lot of the work that you would have to do on the back end with a professional camera setup. And I say
That's
this
the reason why
not as
a
someone
lot
who
of
has experience with it himself, but my brother worked at a camera studio for like 2 years, and he's forgotten more about digital photography and photography in general than I'll ever know. But I know enough to say that like digital cameras, like the professional quality, like a Canon 5D, close to professional quality, those are way better than what you have in your cell phone. But they still leave a lot of the work on the post-processing side undone, whereas the Instagram filters and even whatever filters Apple or Google or Android or whatever has installed, going to do a lot of that work on the back end for you.
That's the reason why there's more photographers now that they think that they're like the coolest thing, and it's not because they take good pictures. It's because they know how to use their, their.
It reminds me of a quote from a blog that I will not mention that said that photography is like chick crack.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but crack is not a good drug. So, and it's addictive.
No.
So I see where you're going with that. I'm not gonna keep going. I'm not gonna keep going.
No, I don't want to engage on that. It's just like I have to say that quote because it
that's
just
what I'm
jumped
saying,
into
that's
my.
what I'm saying. Now everyone at least thinks that they're a good photographer, but at the end they just know how to use the software of every single platform, like Instagram, like Google, like Apple, and they know how to speak certain things to make it look a lot better when they're actually not taking the steps that in the 2000s used to do.
Yeah, if you're even today, like if you're a professional photographer right now and you're taking pictures with your like $5,000 body and $15,000 lens or whatever, when you get back to the studio, you're going to be dropping all those like onto your work computer, and you're going to be using software like Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop or whatever, and you're going to be doing light touches on the post processing to get the lighting and the balance and the contrast and everything right. And you're going to be able, if you've got the training, you're going to be able to do a better job than what the Instagram filter does. But it requires a lot of training to be able to use those programs and know how to use them properly. Whereas the Instagram thing kind of just gives you a leg up for most amateurs.
Yeah, but then again, if you're an amateur, you can become a master on it in like literally a month or 3 based on YouTube reviews or YouTube tutorials. You know, it's not like back in the day in the 2000s where like if you wanted to be a good photographer, you have to go to school.
But now, hold up though. The real issue is just you have a filter. You can push a button. It's going to do shit that it's going to take
Make
you
it look better.
Yeah.
Like lots of training and practice to.
Yeah, because like when my brother was working at the photo studio in Charleston, it was a photo studio that did a lot of business, a lot of wedding photography and whatever else. And my brother came into that job thinking he knew his shit. He knew about angles. He knew about how to use Photoshop. He knew how to use all the programs for the post processing and everything. He's like, I got this. And after about 2 or 3 weeks, he's like, I have so much to learn, because like in terms of like the framing, the setup, getting the lighting properly and everything when you're actually taking the picture, and then back to the studio and doing the post processing with Lightroom or whatever else. He's like, even after 6 or 9 months, he was like, I still have so much to learn about how to do this properly. But that's the step from going from kind of hobbyist and enthusiast amateur to I do this for a living and I'm an expert in it. But what Instagram and all these filters and stuff do is, let's say on a 1 to 10 scale, with like, I'd say my brother probably made it to like a 7 or an 8 in terms of proficiency, with his boss being a 9 or a 9.5. And doing nothing would have been a 1. What these Instagram filters do is they immediately bump you up to a 4 or a 5. With no work.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. So, and I think we can all kind of agree on that. But I want to dig a little deeper. 20 years before now, 20 years later now.
20 years future.
20 years future, yeah. From then, what has changed? What else has changed? Outside of the photography and the porn business.
Well, I want to get you guys' opinion. Like, so much has changed in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
What happens in the next 20? What predictions do you have for how things are going to continue to evolve?
The fashion industry definitely is going to change. You're no longer going to need to go to a store to actually get, a pair of well-fitted jeans, well-fitted t-shirts. Because right now there are a lot of companies like Zara, like Uniqlo, that you will download the app, you will put the camera on, and you can just stay there, and the app will literally scan you and be like, okay, this is your size. You're a small, you're a medium, you're a large, whatever. And you no longer need to have that contact with somebody. Like, I bet that in the 2000s, if you needed to get a shirt or you have to go to the store and talk to someone that knows about it to be like, listen, this is I need a suit for a certain specific occasion.
Here's what I think is going to change. And I think it took a long time. We've been using the same headphone plug for like 50 years. So we've been using this headphone plug for 50 years.
The 3.5 millimeter?
Yeah, and it just changed 2 or 3 years ago. And now we're doing everything wireless. But like that, we went from a plug. We didn't upgrade the plug. We didn't change the plug. We got rid of it. Almost you're using one right now. But this is USB. This is through USB. Although actually, it's 2 3.5 millimeter jacks that plug into a little port that goes to USB. So yeah, okay.
So yeah, it's 3.5 millimeter, I guess.
I think we're gonna see some major changes. Maybe that you're not quite ready for, like you're not expecting. I wouldn't have expected that the audio jack was gonna go fully wireless. I thought we might have upgraded this a little bit for maybe better sound. I don't know.
Have you guys seen Black Mirror? There's this episode called White Christmas. I don't know if you've seen it. White Christmas.
I've seen them all, but
So White Christmas. The thing is that we have Alexa where you talk to it. We have Siri. We have Google, whatever, and you talk to it, and based on their AI, you get the feedback. Now, on White Christmas, there's this thing called the cookie, where they implant something on your brain for 1 week, and it will copy everything that you want, everything that you know, everything that you are as a human being, and then they will extract that out of your head and place it on a cookie or an Alexa, Siri, or Google, whatever. And basically, that person knows you, who you are, what you want, or what time do you have to do things, and whatever. And it will be a lot more efficient if you transition into a smart house, for example. What time do you have to wake up, or what time do you need to?
I remember this. We're gonna forego the synopsis.
I think that's gonna happen in the next 20 years.
The synopsis. Well, but I think we're gonna see some major jumps that we weren't ready for. So I don't think we're gonna.
What are those jumps?
But I think with shipping, I think we're gonna see. I was in Sweden, and like in the city, we have garbage on every street corner, and people come and they pick it up in a truck, and they drive it away, and it's messy, and there's fucking garbage, slime, and shit all over the place. In Sweden, you have public garbage cans, and what they do is they compact the garbage into a shape, and then it drops down underground into a vacuum chute, and it all gets sent to wherever. What's that?
That's cool.
I've never heard of this before. I would never have been able to conceive that, but boom, I go to Sweden and that's a thing. So I think that we're going to see. What's that?
It's a good system.
Well, imagine if we get into shipping like that. Right now, you have phone lines underground, and you have sewer, and you have water, and you have gas underground. But what if the next biggest thing is in your major cities? I mean, New York City would be so easy. You get the fucking subway anyways. It would be so easy to create a channel underground, a vacuum sealed chamber for shipping. I think
you're wrong, but you're close. And here's where you're wrong.
I think
drones. That's the future. Drones.
I think there's a very high probability, but
all right. So Andres, Andres has already caught me on this, which is I think you're wrong, but you're close. You went the wrong direction. You went below ground. I think that what we're going to see is as battery technology improves and as AI improves, you're going to start seeing a lot more drone deliveries where UPS, Amazon, FedEx, USPS, they're going to start being able to you're going to have a port on the top of a building or whatever, and you're going to be able to have a drone just kind of dock with that port and drop off its package, and then the delivery is made.
Yeah.
Automated delivery, but not underground because that's expensive. That's a lot of infrastructure. Yeah. Whereas with drones, not so much.
Sure, fair enough. Free. Fair enough, but so maybe you're undercutting what I'm saying. I think that's where it would go, underground. Think about buildings.
I said you were wrong, but you're
sure now. But think about buildings and electric supply. I don't know about the house you grew up in. Did they have wires that went from the street to your house?
No, there were telephone poles, and there was a line of electricity and telephone wire that ran from the pole to our house.
Ours was underground.
Ours was not.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I think, and then you look at, when was the last time you saw a power line in New York City? It's not here. So I think that underground is going to, I think underground's just better than in the air.
No, it requires density of population.
It's more expensive because regardless of the infrastructure, you still need to invest more money to actually change the
right. But at a certain population density, the inflection point hits. It makes sense to put everything underground.
That's right.
But when you've got people more spread out, because in the apartment complex that I'm in,
it's going to go to affluent places first.
Of course.
And then slowly, it'll over the next decade after that, it'll trickle out to the greater suburbs.
Because every single building has a platform.
What I'm getting at though is there's going to be so much cost from UPS, FedEx, DHL, USPS that somebody's going to undercut because we're not going to go to retail stores anymore. So someone's going to undercut that, and they're going to do this, that, or the next.
Yeah, but it's a lot cheaper from my point of view, at least. I think that it's a lot cheaper to do platforms on every rooftop and, have drone land in it. And that way you can also protect your packages. Because if you leave it at the entrance of every building, there's a lot of people that are not right now are stealing your packages. But if you leave it on top of your building, you are the only one that has the key.
Sure, but okay, so that may happen before what I'm saying will happen, but I don't imagine we're going to have these drones flying around for the next 20 years. I think it may happen in the next 5 or 6, but I don't think in 20 years from now it's going to happen.
No, because again, for certain small areas, sure, but I think that the air is free and drones don't cost very much. And to build up the infrastructure.
Yeah, good point, though. The air is free right now. Underground used to be free, for a long time. The ground
underground yeah, but the thing, underground was never free because property rights generally extend below ground, but not too far above ground. And so even if we were to say that property rights don't extend below ground, it costs a lot of money to dig a fucking tunnel and then put the infrastructure in. But it costs nothing. Once you have a drone, it costs nothing to fly it.
The only thing that you have to invest on a drone is the battery efficiency. That's the only thing you need to invest on, basically. Nothing else.
No, Andres is completely right on this.
You don't need to build.
All right. So then
the most that you have to pay probably eventually once the government realize that we're losing money on drones, there will be like attacks on airspace.
Well, what I'm saying is that I think the transportation, the shipping industry is going to make some major changes because we're taxing the demand for that very heavily right now. There's so much demand for that right now. We're really taxing that system. So I think when you don't go to stores anymore and you can try on fucking 15 different things and send 14 different things back, I think that's going to be a lot of stress in that industry, and I think there's going to be some demand for more efficient shipping. That's that. What are you guys thinking?
I don't think you need to return 14 things at once because
well,
technology gets improved. You're gonna get your measurements well done on a camera that is, scanning you left and right, so it knows your measurement. It knows. And
all right. So let's move on from this topic. We've talked it to death. All right. What about relationships? How is dating and
20 years from now?
And 20 years from now, how is dating going to be different?
Virtual sex, baby. That's where we're going to. Virtual sex, virtual dating.
How is that a substitute for real thing?
It is not, but at least you know that you can create an avatar, because by that time you're not gonna have the social skills that we have now, because those social skills are gonna be gone. So you will pretend to be someone that you're not. You will create an avatar. You'll be like, okay,
people are already doing that.
This Pikachu and this whatever, and we're gonna collide to each other, and then we're gonna see like what we like and whatever. That's my thought on it.
All right, I have an idea. Let's pause the future talk. Let's bring that up next podcast episode.
Now I'm into it.
Okay.
Right?
I am too, but I have so much to say, and we hit the hour mark. So if you guys are watching live and you want to hear more going back 20 years, you let me know. We'll stick around for a little bit more. I'll pour another drink. Going forward 20 years,
topic for another day.
I think that's a whole fucking 2 decades worth of podcast forward. So are you guys down for another little bit of 20 years in the past? Pour a drink. Stick around.
All right. I'm getting kind of low too, but all right. So what other things from 20 years ago? I'm trying to think about something that was very different 20 years ago versus today. Because I think the biggest things are going to be communication and data availability.
Well, transportation,
yeah.
And
transportation's not radically different today than it was 20 years ago. It really isn't.
I can walk out of my apartment now and put my hand in the air and get a car.
You could do that 20 years ago and you could get a cab.
That's what I'm doing now. But now you got Uber, you got this, that.
Right.
And that.
That's not radically different.
I'm agreeing.
That's not radically different. It really isn't.
But in 20 years, will be because we will not be driving. There will be Teslas.
No, we're not talking about 20 years in the future. We're talking about 20 years in the past. 20 years in the past, you could walk out of your apartment and hail a cab. You could today. Now, Uber might be slightly cheaper, and you might be able to kind of like schedule your ride a little more easily. But I don't think that that's a radical shift. That's a subtle shift on the consumer end. On the provider end, it's very different because
it's really affected their business model.
Right. But consumer end, it's not a huge shift.
Yeah. So transportation. So I don't think miles per gallon has changed that much.
Not much, no.
In 20 years. I mean, 20 years ago, we're not talking 40 years ago, and that hasn't even changed that much. We used to think of these old big boats that were gas guzzlers that got 12 to 18 miles per gallon, and now we have SUVs that get
because
12 to 18 miles per gallon.
Elon
Yeah.
Musk. Right now we have Elon Musk, and probably in the next 20 years we're gonna be colonizing the moon or Mars. Shit, I mean to see
No.
shit like that.
No. We're not talking about the future. We only get to talk about the past. But yeah, the transportation. We already talked about the GPS and just kind of a general sense of direction. Where, like, back when I started driving or whatever, I had to know where I was going. Like, or I'd have to like look at a map, an actual physical map, to figure out where I was going to go because Google Maps didn't exist.
But I also feel like, so it's funny, I can pretty much anywhere I'm at tell you which way is north, south, east, west.
I know how to do that when I walk, not when I drive.
And I feel uncomfortable when I don't know where north, south, east, and west are. Now,
I'm pretty good at it when I'm walking, especially in New York. I know where the north is, where the south, where the east, whatever. But when I'm driving, I'm completely lost.
But people think I have this weird superpower that I can just come out of nowhere and tell you where north is.
It's you develop a sense of direction. I had that same thing happen to me in Charleston because when I first moved down here, so I didn't have GPS for like 5 or 6 years, and I refereed soccer professionally. So like even if I was just driving to like a college game or a high school game or whatever, I would look on the map and be like, all right, this is where I need to go. And I'd have to get there, and I'd do it from memory. And so now whenever I drive somewhere, I'm just like, I know where I'm going.
So,
and people are like, how do you know that? I'm like, because I've practiced it.
But when you go back upstate and you have to drive around, do you drive around a lot back when we go home? When you go home?
When I'm in Albany, yeah, I drive a fair bit because, I'll borrow a car from my parents or my brother or whatever.
And do you know where you're going all the time?
Most of the time, yeah. I very rarely use GPS. Like, I'll look at a map and I'll say, like, even if it's in like a residential neighborhood where like I might not know the exact street, I know enough. I can get myself to probably within a mile or a half mile of where I need to be, if not less.
Well, fair enough. But you know the roads that you're on.
Yeah.
Because I remember a lot of the road names, and I feel like I'm going in the right direction a lot of times. And a lot of times I just go by feel. I think one of the times I came up to your family's house for Christmas, the most recent time, probably like 2016 or something, I went up and I just kind of went by feel from wherever I was coming from. But a lot of it is almost like a muscle memory type thing.
Well, it's also just like if you have a sense of direction, if you've developed it, then there will be times where, like, even if you don't know the roads or whatever, you have a general idea as to what direction you're going. One of my proudest moments. So when I first moved down to South Carolina, I drove back home for Thanksgiving, and then I drove back from home back to South Carolina. And on my way back home, I was in Charlotte. I took 81 down, and I ended up in Charlotte. And it was like 10 o'clock in the morning. And traffic was just absolutely insane. Like, all the highways were just fucking gridlock. And I had been driving at that point for about 19 or 20 hours. And I was just exhausted. So I said, you know what? I'm not battling this traffic. I'm just going to take a nap. So I pulled off on the next exit, pulled into a parking lot for like a Walmart, locked the doors, and crawled into the back seat, took a nap. Woke up 2 hours later. Traffic was still stupid. So I said, I'm not taking the highways. I'm just going to take random roads. So I started taking random roads, and I'm just like, I'm going to go this direction, and when I feel like turning, I'm going to take a turn. And after about 20 or 30 minutes, I ended up, it was one of the most bizarre experiences of my life because I felt like I was in like a different world where I drove by like a nuclear power plant. There was nobody around. And then I ended up on some highway where there was like 2 cars. And I was just like, I feel like I'm just like the Twilight Zone here because there was tons of traffic there. And now like I wake up, I just take random roads or whatever. And now there's nobody around me. I'm on a different planet. But I eventually made it back to where I wanted to go. But it was because I had a sense of direction of like, I want to go in this general way. And the sun's there. It says east.
I was still talking about class.
Yes, we're still doing. That's how this is going. So, but
Yeah, that's.
I think that's awesome. My only thing is that you sleep in the back seat, which I find a little weird. I never thought about crawling in the back seat to take a nap. I just recline the front seat.
Well, so I had the RSX at the time, so I could actually turn the back seats down, and then I had like a full like 6. Yeah, that was a great car.
That was a great car. But think about cars 20 years ago.
Cars 20 years ago are not markedly different from today, although there were no electric vehicles whatsoever. Now you got tons of them.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of electric vehicles. I definitely think that's where the future's going, and I welcome it. But I also really enjoy.
No, I don't welcome it at all, and here's why. And you'll agree with me, Justin.
Okay.
Where am I going with this one?
Because you're not shifting. You're not driving a manual transmission. There's no transmission.
But if
that's exactly it.
An electric car that was manual, will you buy it?
If there was an electric vehicle that had a stick shift and a clutch, I would buy it.
Yeah.
My whole thing, and this is what makes me an old man, is like I don't want a car that is controlled by computers. I love the feeling of being of selecting the gear and controlling the engine and deciding when I shift and what the car does. I don't want the computer controlling what the car does.
Yeah, but that's because you're a good driver. 90% of the people that drive are not good drivers.
Sure, but driving is something that, like, it's just like eating. Like, some people like to eat good food and they look forward to going out to eat. Some people come home and they put fucking they eat fucking TV dinner.
Yeah, and that
3 of them in a night.
That percentage is bigger than the percentage that knows how to eat and knows how to drive.
Most people don't. Most people see driving as a chore. They don't enjoy the actual act of driving. This is something that I've got to do to get to where I need to go. Like my roommate, for example, he hates driving. He only does it because he needs to get to work or wherever the fuck else he's going.
Yeah. And the reason why is because now you invented it automatic transmission. Unlike before, if you kept cars manual and manual only, you are more engaged into driving, and you have to pay attention about the fact that you have to change gears, you have to pay attention to the road, you have to pay attention. You just don't have enough time to actually look at your phone. Now that everything is automatic, you can just look at your phone, whatever. Now you have GPS on your phone, and anything. Later on, once we have these new Teslas coming out that they're gonna drive themselves. That's it.
That technology freaks me the fuck out. You will never get me to buy a self-driving car. I
don't feel safe.
You don't need to feel like that you need to buy. You're gonna be forced into buying one because they're not gonna let you drive.
All of that.
They're not gonna let you drive unless you have an automatic car.
I'll take the tickets. I'll pay the ticket every fucking week.
You said that.
Well, you're going to pay a tax on it if you're driving a gasoline vehicle. Which gas stations, by the way, if like people are investing in petroleum, like that's not a good investment moving forward.
We just saw.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to be a good investment moving forward. But I imagine we're going to pay tax on gasoline cars in the future, and I imagine
probably.
Cali.
We're talking about the past, though. We don't get to talk about the future.
But Cali just put a law that after 2031, you can no longer sell
35.
petrol.
2035,
yeah.
Right.
You can no longer sell petrol cars. You have to just only sell, electric cars.
Fair enough. All right. So look, I'm going to hit some comments real quick. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you guys think has changed over the last 20 years, especially if you're old enough to remember. From the year 2000 to the year 2020, what is the biggest difference between then and now? Remember, we're going backwards as a retrospective. We're not going forwards yet. We may talk about that in a future episode.
Ask them about it.
What are the people saying right now?
I love drive my car. James, text, drive one. I had no choice but to learn online shopping. Online shopping did not exist 20 years ago. That's a really
To
big
a
one.
very small degree. Very small. eBay still existed out there, but it was like at its very beginnings. Amazon was just beginning.
Yeah, I was selling on eBay.
The
back
degree that it exists now, no comparison.
Yeah, no, of course.
I was definitely selling on eBay back then, which is funny, but I mean that's just
There's some stories there, but we can't get into.
Communication, online schooling. Yeah, online schooling was definitely not a thing.
There's no way.
Unless you were sick or you had lupus, you had to do online schooling. Yeah, sure. But now, like on the massive scale that we have now.
Yeah, but right now it's kind of by necessity.
Yeah.
Digital TV. Well, so radio, which is still analog right now,
Yep.
by actual radio wave.
Mhm.
And then TV. TV has changed. You have to have a digital antenna. You can't have a regular analog antenna anymore.
You no longer need to have a connection. You just need internet because you have YouTube TV. You have so many programs, so many apps that can give you.
I'll be back in a minute.
Straight from
Refreshing the drink.
You can have TV straight out of an application. Like you have Roku, you have Apple TV.
Sure, you don't
Amazon.
need
Yeah,
to,
you don't need
but
cable anymore.
so TV. Yeah, we talked about cell phones, Debbie. If you're watching this right now, I got my Motorola V60 from this phone. Actually, came out in 2001. Beautiful phone. It's got a metal case in the phone. Very nice. One of my favorite design phones ever. I would have gotten rid of the antenna, but it is what it is. I happen
You
to
had
have.
a Razer.
I did not. I never had a
Motorola
Razer. I never had
That
a
was
Razer.
like you were a CEO of a company. You had a
Sure,
Razer.
but right before the Razer came out, similar time was the Motorola V600, which was basically like the future plan of this phone, the Motorola V60, because they had like a Motorola V700 or T700. I don't know. But aesthetically, they just didn't look as badass as this one. And I think I went to a Samsung at some point.
Yeah.
But I never had the Motorola Razr. It just didn't do anything for me. It was a cool phone. When that came out, I actually went to Samsung because the Samsung produced the smallest cell phone at the time, and I wanted the smallest phone instead of the Razr. And then I've got my my iPhone 1 here. It's out of batteries, but that's the iPhone 1, which this was 2007. So this came out 7 years later than this one did, which is a vast leap in technology, which is just wild. The screen on this one, you could watch YouTube. You could watch. I mean, you had a visual voicemail interface, which basically blew anybody's mind who was used to the regular voicemail. We have to press the voicemail button, which was
the one. It was always in the one.
you had to press the voicemail button to call into voicemail.
But remember, like on 2007, we had Steve Jobs who changed the phone forever. Like it changed the market phone forever, the cell phone, whatever. Now we have Elon Musk that's gonna change the automobile industry forever. We're gonna have a new software every year for the new Teslas or a new version of a car, whatever, for every single year. The same way that now we have a different phone every year. We have an iPhone 10, an iPhone 11, an iPhone 12, every single year. That's what's going to happen with cars. We're going to have a new upgrade or update on a Tesla Model S, a Tesla Model whatever, in the upcoming years. Something that we didn't have before, because at some point you're gonna hit a plateau on cell phones, and then you're gonna look for something else. And that something else, I believe, is cars. Eventually, in the next 20 years, we're gonna have a new upgrade on
bag phone. Debbie said she had a bag phone. We had a car phone that came in a bag, so I know.
Bag phone, yeah, that's going back like early 90s.
Yeah. No, that was a
I'm
while back.
impressed. Good job.
Oh god, yeah. No, the bag phone. Did that have a battery on it, or it went right into the port on the car? The cigarette lighter.
Both.
Both. All right. Well, fair enough. Musk, you may not know how to legitimately name his kids, but he sure knows about his cars. All right, cigarette lighter. Thank you, Debbie. All right. We're running out of topics going backwards. I'm going to finish my cocktail here. By cocktail, I mean scotch.
The movie industry or the entertainment industry. Think about it 2000 and what it is right now with CGI. CGI is what, 5 years old?
Well,
No.
it's way older than that. CGI stands for computer generated imagery.
Yeah,
which
but
we
it
had.
got better now compared to what it was, I don't know, 10 years ago.
So one thing I want to touch on is celebrity. And the whole idea of celebrity is really disappearing because we only knew people who were broadcast
on TV.
How is it disappearing? It's worse now than ever.
Sure, but here's what you had considerably fewer people who had a celebrity role, whereas now everybody has their own platform.
Yeah, there are TikTokers, there are YouTubers, there are Instagrammers, there are Facebookers
that can walk down the street, and they don't, and there's lots more of them. Whereas your traditional celebrity is being a bit eclipsed by the everyman who doesn't quite have to have the talent to draw that type of audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Talent or luck, really.
Yeah, if you ask
Both.
A 15, 16-year-old kid right now who is their, celebrity, they're gonna tell you, oh, it's either Addison Rae or Charlie D'Amelio, whatever. Those are TikTok.
I don't know who any of those people are.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know who those people are, but those are the kind of people that are the most influencer people on TikTok. They have 70, 80 million followers, and those are just kids that are on the age of 5 till 17, 18, 21, 25. I don't know. But most of them, they don't know who Jennifer Garner is. They don't know who Jennifer Aniston is. But you and I, we know who Jennifer Aniston is, Jennifer Garner. We know all of these people because we saw them doing Friends. We saw them all of these things. And on the 2000s, the only way that you can become a star was by being broadcasted on television. There was no other outlet. Now we have so many outlets like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Tinder, TikTok, and OnlyFans. All of those.
All right. So
Twitch.
Look, speaking of Twitch, I'm gonna pull the switch here. So I look forward to our conversation about the future. I'm gonna do my research on that.
Yeah.
Which will happen sometime in the
future.
It will happen. Hey, did I ever show you that picture of me when I was younger?
All of them are when you were younger.
I'm going to call it right now. I appreciate you guys joining us on our 20-year or 2-decade. That's a score, right?
It was a good
score.
Yes.
20 years. So one
Correct.
score and a 96
in an hour and a half ago.
And 96 minutes ago. Appreciate you guys joining podcast number 45. Look forward to seeing you guys 46 for our future topic about our future topic. James, thank you for joining. Andreas, thank you for joining me for a drink. And I will catch you all later. We will catch you all later.
James is gonna meet us on podcast number 50, right?
If New York relaxes its quarantine rules, then yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. It'll calm down.
All right. Good night and good luck.
Laters.
All right, it's a wrap. Thank you for joining. If you have not already subscribed, I would greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate if you subscribe. If you share this podcast with your friends, that would be cool. And as always, I would love your feedback, your comments, your likes. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. All the feedback helps. All right, see you later.
I like PBR. I just got priced out of it.